Hey, good morning, shipbuilders. This is Kyle, and wanted to show you a couple of tricks and techniques to utilize in Infinite Campus during the time of coronavirus. One thing that we've been hearing from parents and folks that have been checking in on the status of students is that Infinite Campus, which is usually our warehouse of communicating progress and grades, is sometimes it hasn't been updated during this time, and that kind of makes sense, right? Because we've been living in Google Classroom, we've been living on Google Meet, we've been recording videos with our students and doing those things to reach out. But IC is a campus-wide system that both our parents and our students and our advisors and other teachers within the building really rely upon to know whether or not kids are turning stuff in if they're doing work. So even though we might not be giving a traditional grade during this time of coronavirus, it's still important to track whether or not kids are doing the stuff we're asking them to do. So today I'm going to show you a couple of techniques that you can use, real simple things inside IC that would make this happen. So I'm playing in the sandbox here. So Ashley Waniger, I'm using your work experience class, but nothing will be disturbed by me doing this, so rest easy. And so I'm looking at my group here in work experience, and I'm just going to travel over to the exit slip assignment that Ashley had assigned, and she assigned this to be due for April 23rd. Now, let's say the only thing that I want to track for my kids is whether or not they did it. Did they turn it in? Did they participate in the activity? Well, IC has a way for you to record that, and if you expand out, there's these three little or two little lines here. If you expand those out, you'll notice that there are all these options that you can utilize for a particular student. And for Dawson, if I were to just click the T, you'll see this little triangle pop up in the upper left-hand corner, and that refers to the fact that Dawson has turned in that assignment. Now you might be saying, well, that's great, but my goodness, I've got, 30 kids in a class. I got to click that 30 different times. That seems a bit tedious, and yep, it does seem a bit tedious. And so a newer function that IC did put in last year is the multi-score function, and that allows you to rock some grades or be able to input some information relatively quickly. So I suppose what I would do is if I had a particular item that was due and I had a large group of students that turned in that assignment, and that's the only thing I wanted to track, is I would go to the multi-score function and I would go up here to the top, right? I've got all my students on the left here. I'd go up here to the top and I'd click turned in. And what that does is that automatically says that every single one of my students for that particular period turned in their assignment. Now it's great. But we all know that sometimes some folks struggle getting some things in. So let's say Noah didn't turn his assignment in. How could you, Noah? How did you not? Oh my goodness, so frustrating, right? So I would just click in the turned in box for him, and that would uncheck the box. And then maybe I would move over to the flag and I would change his flag, and maybe I would just say that that it was missing at that time, and that would report something a little bit different. Then I can go down in the corner and I can go ahead and save that. I can save that experience. I can close it. And if I go back to the scorebook, then it's going to reload for me here. And I'll notice that all my flags popped up. Oh, yay, success, right? And so what that'll show once I go into the student portal or the parent portal is, yes, in fact, that activity has been turned in, and your son or daughter is certainly doing the things that they should be doing. So kudos to them, okay? If you are like, well, I don't just want to use the turned in or the missing functions. I like the whole idea of numbers because it tells us not only have they turned it in, but how well they're doing on that particular power standard or essential learning and why they might need some intervention. Well, there's an option there for you to do that as well without it affecting the overall grade over here. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. So when you create your assignment, right? When you create your assignment, I'm going to click on the blue up here because Ashley had already created it. but you're going to get a box or a dialog box that's going to look something like this, right? So the assignment name is up here, and then you've got all this stuff as far as like which section you want it to apply to. And then down on the bottom, you've got the standard grading task. And for this particular assignment, it's assigned to the quarter grade. On the far right, you've got this thing here called multiplier. And right now, this particular assignment is counting for 30 points, and it's multiplied by 1, right? Which makes it worth 30 points, right? What you can do is you can actually change that to 0. And IC is going to yell at me a little bit here when I do that, and that's really cool, because IC is going to say, are you sure? Multiplier set to 0. See, it's kind of yelling at me, because what IC is thinking is like, wait. If you do that, you do understand that it won't count towards the grade. And yeah, that's what we possibly wanted to say for this case, right? And so I'm going to put that 0 in there for the multiplier. I'm going to click save right here, and that's going to save that particular assignment with the new parameters that I have given it. So the assignment is still worth 30 points. I'm still going to be able to communicate the progress of these particular students. However, the whole grade thing, which so many parents and students are worried about, will not be affected. And I'm going to prove that right now. So let's go to Dawson here. So Dawson, let's give 2 instances, right? Instance number 1, Dawson gets a 30 out of 30, right? He did his thing. He did it really, really well. Nice job, Dawson. And if you look at his overall percentage here, you'll notice that 94.79, nothing changes, right? Nothing changes. Now let's look at another scenario with Noah. We know Noah turns everything in on time. He does a great job with all of his work all of the time. But this case, this particular situation, he didn't turn something in, right? So I'm gonna give him the 0 because he didn't turn it in. And I'm gonna enter that. And you're gonna notice something here. His percentage did not change, right? And so we are not exactly communicating that his grade is going to change or it's going to drop. It's just a placeholder essentially for us to say, look, he didn't turn it in. And even with Leandra, if I give her a 20, right? Give her a 20 out of 30, you'll notice again, her grade does not change. So it's just communicating a placeholder to parents, to students, to academic lab advisors, anybody else that needs to be in the know, to counselors, about, yep, they're working. Here's the level that they're working at. Here's the amount of experience or expertise they have on that particular topic. And if they're looking to intervene or looking to work a little bit harder, this particular option would be able to communicate that to both parents, students, and all other stakeholders. All right. Don't forget to save your stuff, right? That's just a little bit of tidbit when it comes to communicating grades during the COVID. Have a great day, everybody. Stay sanitized and socially distanced.